Welcome to the Good News Bay podcast, where we are making Bay County brighter, one conversation at a time. Today, I am so excited to have a very special guest with us, Joey DeCernia.
Great to be here.
Well, I am glad that you're here. He is the president of the Eastern Shipbuilding Group. Some big things have been happening, are happening, expect to still happen with that group. And so to have you and to get to just really dig in a little deeper than just a press release, about what you guys have done and who you are. Most people that are in and around Bay County have heard that name, Eastern Shipbuilding Group, through the years. They've heard the DeCernia name because there's a few of y'all.
There's a few of us.
But they may not know some of the things that we'll be able to share today about both the history and kind of where things are since the hurricane and what some of the good news is that we're looking forward to in the future. And so I just want to dig right in and talk about really where y'all came from.
Sure.
Your daddy, Brian DeCernia, started the company
in
1976?
1976. So interesting story. He went to school to become an attorney. He practiced for a couple of years up in New York. Didn't like it, so he decided to become a commercial fisherman. So he was up on the Northeast fishing for swordfish in the Outer Banks, off of North Carolina, all the way up to the Grand Banks. He was doing it in some really old wooden vessels that leaked. And anyway, long story short, he knew some people that had found swordfish in the Gulf. At that time, the only folks that knew there was a population of swordfish in the Gulf were the Japanese.
Okay.
They had a worldwide sword fishing fleet. So Brian came down here in 1976 looking for swordfish. He found them. So he did pretty well. And when it came time to build a boat that didn't leak, he looked around, and there was a small shipyard here. Sherman Shipyard at the time was actually building a vessel that a customer had canceled on. He picked up on the contract. The contract, they got it done, but it was late, and he missed his season. So the next time he had money to build a boat, he said, I'm going to do it. So he leased an acre of land on Watson Bayou, bought 4 welding machines, hired some guys, and went to work. And so that's how the shipyard started in 1976, building boats for himself.
Building fishing boats.
Fishing vessels, long line fishing vessels. That's what he did. He was catching swordfish out in the Gulf. And so not long after that, the federal government passed the 200-mile limit. And prior to that, foreign flag vessels could fish within 9 miles of our shores. At that point, what happened was foreign flag vessels were restricted from fishing any closer than 200 miles. So now the U.S.-based fishing industry had expanded, and he was building fishing vessels. So people started asking him for boats. So he started building boats, and by 1980, he had built 26 fishing vessels.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's how it started. And then, from there, we had the oil boom in the Gulf of Mexico in the late 70s, early 80s.
Uh-huh.
He went from hundreds of employees to thousands of employees. And then in the early 80s, things fell out just as quick as they came on. And he went from 1,100 employees to 50 in a year. So high highs and low lows, but he stuck with it. And here we are today. We've diversified, built over 350 different vessels. And, it's all because he persevered.
Well, I know that at this point, and we'll talk about the government side in a minute, but you've got the commercial vessels that you still are able to build at the same time that you're doing the government commissioned vessels. Is there anybody else that's even able? That's a rare thing to be able to do both at the same time, right?
It's a rare thing, and the reason is because the requirements are so different. I always like to use the term, it's hard to unlearn things that you learn as a human, right? So in order to do this, we've totally segregated our government line from our commercial line. Because once you learn how to do things for a government vessel, it's hard to unlearn them. And once, they're of no value to a commercial customer. So we're doing all of our offshore patrol cutter work for the Coast Guard and our government work at our Nelson Street facility. We have all of our commercial work going on at our Allenton facility and our newly opened Port St. Joe facility that we opened about a year and a half ago.
Okay. So for a number of our viewers are people that are new to Bay County,
Sure.
right? We have some that are multi-generation, but the ones that are new to Bay County may not know where all those things are. So the Nelson Street location is on Watson Bayou.
It's on Watson Bayou, right next to the paper mill. Actually, paper mill's our neighbor.
Okay. And then when we talk about Allenton, if folks have ever gone toward Weewah-Hitchcock, we call it Weewah Highway. They go out 22. They're gonna see a lot of traffic turning off around the time.
You go down 22 like you're heading to Weewah, take a right on 2297, and we're all the way down at the end. So it's past Sandy Creek. It's at the far east end of the county.
The Port St. Joe facility is brand new, right?
It is. So as part of the offshore patrol cutter project, the proposal that we proposed to the government, we told them that we were going to segregate our commercial work from the government work. And in order to achieve that, we wanted to open a new facility. We had been leasing the old paper mill site in St. Joe since about 2012, and the market didn't allow us to do a whole lot with it. But as the OPC, Offshore Patrol Cutter Program, came on, we saw the opportunity to develop that yard. So we lobbied the state of Florida. We were successful in gaining a $6 million grant, and we invested it in that St. Joe yard. So we put in lighting, roads, stormwater, warehousing, power, you name it, and took a greenfield, basically, which used to be an old paper mill, and it's now a very active and thriving shipyard.
Well, and it sounds like that for the long haul, it's going to be very beneficial to that whole community and the county surrounding.
It will, and it already has. We've delivered the first 2 of 3 Staten Island ferries out of that facility. So it's been great to see it go from an idea to something that's real.
So just on a lighter side, I've never been to New York. Maybe one day I'll go, maybe I won't. But if I've heard of Staten Island Ferry. If I go as a Panama City native, if I go to New York and I ride that ferry, I might just be on a ship built at Eastern Shipbuilding Group.
Yep, absolutely. So the first one is called the Staff Sergeant Michael H. Olis. And the second one, I believe, is called the Sandy Ground. So if you're on either of those two, those were built right here in Bay County, and they're carrying angry New Yorkers right now as we speak.
I don't know much about the angry New Yorkers, but if I go to New York, I'm just telling you, I'd love to get me some Bay County while I'm up there, and I'd love to actually be on one of those. Say I rode one of them.
Yep. Well, that you'll see, it's an iconic ferry.
It's
one of the longest running ferries, I think, in the U.S.
Well, what I think is fascinating for people to hear that, because it's hard to really put something concrete around what is Eastern Shipbuilding.
Yeah.
But then when you start identifying things that you guys do, and that's what I wanted to kind of I wanted to pencil in between these lines, like color in things a little bit for you guys. And so as we were talking a few moments ago, you indicated that another type of the ships that you guys have built are vessel with the dredging work and the beach renourishment project.
That's right.
Tell me a little bit about those.
So Eastern right now we're the largest dredge builder in the United States. We've built more dredges than anybody. Yeah, hopper dredges. Hopper dredges are the large dredges that are the beach builders. So, in the off season, we rebuilt a lot of our beach, and you saw a very large vessel coming up to shore, pumping sand onto the beach, and then leaving and getting more sand. That's a hopper dredge. And we build vessels that size and bigger. And we're actually building one right now for a company called Weeks Marine. And one day it might very well be rebuilding our beaches. So it's
awesome. It's
cool to have something, you build it, and then, you see it come back, not for repair, right, because it hasn't broken, but to, help make your community stronger.
Yeah. Well, as far as I think it's important for people to know that y'all are one of the major employers in Bay County.
We are.
You are a private company.
We are.
Technically, you're a small business within the shipbuilding industry.
That's right. It's hard to believe.
You're by no means small, but you employ 1,450 people currently.
That's right.
And across those 3 facilities, and I guess we're probably the largest private employer in Bay County.
We are.
And that's some 3,000 employees altogether.
Yeah, so we're 1,500 strong direct as Eastern employees. But the economic impacts, the leveraging, job leveraging of a shipbuilding job is pretty high. So for every Eastern job, you create one additional indirect job. So we're 1,500 strong at Eastern today. That means that 1,500 employees in Bay County have their job directly because, or indirectly because of Eastern. So it's the economic impact starts to balloon as you think about that, and it's bottom line is that we're here. We have a tremendous economic impact in the area, and that's one thing. But we also make it a point, and want to continue to make it a point, to have a positive impact in the community and make our community strong, not just from an economic standpoint, but through all aspects of our community.
I have heard community leaders say about you, and I've heard you articulate the desire to be a company that's known for making promises and keeping those
Absolutely.
promises. And I don't think he would mind me quoting him, but General McQueen I had talked with him about you guys, and he described you all as being a tremendous community partner. And I think while I'm on this part of it, I think it would be wise for me to articulate that it's well known in our community that it was kind of a big hit that the paper mill.
That was shocking.
For it to close is a big deal, huge news in a very traumatic way for all those employees. And you guys, along with several larger employers in Bay County, have reached out and said, "Hey, what can we do to help?" And I know y'all have already been able to hire some of those.
We have, yeah. We've hired a number of them already. We hope to hire many more. I was telling you earlier, right now we need about 200 more skilled craftsmen, craftswomen. So, and then on top of that, we have a need for about 80 corporate folks, engineers, program managers. When the news hit, I think it was on a Thursday, out of nowhere, that the paper mill was closing. I was in shock. Everybody was in shock, but the first thing I thought of was, hey, those folks don't have to leave. There are opportunities here, and we've got hundreds of them. So immediately I started trying to raise the awareness that, hey, there is a position here for you at Eastern Shipbuilding Group if shipbuilding's your thing, right? And we'd be glad to keep as many of those folks in Bay County as possible.
Well, I'm grateful for the kind of community supporter that you are in being able to reach out to them. I want to change gears because there's a huge, we can't just start with how big you guys are at this point and really the stakes community wise that are on the line with the number of Coast Guard cutters that you have the potential to build and that kind of thing. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of backtrack just a moment, because I know that and I guess maybe we tell the story of David and Goliath for a minute, kind of from your perspective, because I think it was 2016 when you guys won this Coast Guard cutter contract, and that was a huge. I remember. I mean, it made the headlines, and it was. I mean, everybody that could brag about it wanted to brag about it, and we in Bay County were proud of the little guy, our people. The discernment is somehow went to D.C. and won, right?
Yeah. No, it was. We first started looking at this job in 2010, 2011. So we're 12 years down the road, but we looked at it, and our main goal was, hey, we struggle continuously by riding the ups and downs of the oil and gas industry, because a lot of what we have built in the past has been dependent on oil and gas. So when times are great, they're great, and when they're bad, they're really bad, and in between then. You see yourself working really hard to train up a good workforce, and they're people and so you don't want to ever have to let them go, because you may never get them back, and the county may never get them back. Once people pick up and they establish roots elsewhere, it's difficult to get them back. So we saw this Coast Guard project as a potential opportunity to have something long term that was more stable.
Okay.
So that we could ride out these ups and downs and keep a good workforce intact. So we started going after it, and instantly everybody and their brother came up with reasons why we would not be successful. You don't know what you're doing. You're too small. You'll get clobbered by all the big boys, all this stuff. And so we heard no a bunch of times. We actually heard no from the Coast Guard at first.
Right.
When we expressed interest, we got a letter from them that said, nah, thanks, but we don't think we're going to let you participate. Well, we don't take no for an answer very well. So we flew up to Washington, D.C. We sat down with the Coast Guard. We showed them what we were doing, and they go, wow, we had no idea that you guys do this kind of stuff down in Bay County. So, yeah, I think we'll let you participate. So at one point there was 12 shipyards in the U.S. that were going after this job, and in those 12 are the biggest shipyards that you can imagine. You know, the Northrop Grumman's, the Huntington Ingalls, the General Dynamics,
The
NASCARs.
ones that aren't small businesses?
No, they're massive. And they're tier one government shipyards. They've been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah, no,
and they're great shipyards. You know, they build submarines, aircraft carriers, destroyers. So those are the folks that we're competing against. And continuously we were told, you can't do it, you won't do it, just bow out. And it went from 12 shipyards down to 8. And then they down selected to 5, and then they down selected to 3, and we were one of them. And so all along the way, we were being told, you guys can't do it. You can't do it. It's just not going to happen. So, you know, we said, no, we got this. We can do this. We're strong. We can figure this out. And so we got to 3.
Sounds a lot like Bay County residents.
That is hard-nosed, resilient folks.
That's it.
We figure it out together. So we got down to 3 at that point. It was us. It was another big tier 1 shipyard, Bath Iron Works up in Maine.
Okay.
They build destroyers. They've been around for hundreds of years. Great shipyard, just a Goliath.
Right.
And then another shipyard in Louisiana that had a long history with the Coast Guard, building a lot of their smaller cutters, Bollinger. And so, you know, once again, you know, no, you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to lose. You shouldn't be here. And we got a call in 2016, and they said, "Hey, we've gone through the proposals, and we're excited to say that we're going to be building our Coast Guards our cutters in Bay County." And so it was a great day, and we started design work for 2 years, and then we did a great job designing the vessel,
Right.
and it was time to award construction of the first vessel. And 10 days before Hurricane Michael, we were awarded the construction of the first cutter. And then, as you know, Hurricane Michael came on with a vengeance.
Here comes the Cat 5.
It was unbelievable.
Anybody that's listening that doesn't know needs to know that where this hurricane hit was right on top, really,
On top of us.
of where you're at and what you do.
Both of our shipyards were within the eye of the
Yes.
storm. So, you know, extensive damage. We had just been awarded a Coast Guard contract, and our first thought was, we have to help our employees. So we did a huge number of things. I mean, we housed up to 100 employees in temporary housing at our shipyard for over a year. We raised $250,000 and donated it to the employees that were hit the hardest. All of our vendors and partners and customers just came to us with all sorts of supplies that we gave to our employees. It was an incredible time.
Well, I did a little bit of research on you guys, and your assistant helped me a little too. But from as I've looked back at it, I think I even heard some of this from a couple of community leaders. You guys built like a makeshift community.
We did.
So that you guys could not only get your employees back to work, but you have even talked about showing up at the homes of some of your employees and saying, what can we do to help? We got chainsaws. We're going to get you settled at home so you can continue to sustain your family.
Yeah, we did. We knew that we had to locate our employees. We had to keep a paycheck flowing into their wallets. We had to help them just get one day further down the road. Because as you know, it was a bad time. You know, we had, at one point, I would have people that had worked for us for 30 years and had lived here all their life say, Joe, I'm thinking about leaving. You know, and I'm like, please, don't go. Just wait it out. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And, you know, your first hot shower, your first, your first that.
It's a big deal. I mean, I hate to say it, but I do remember
it's a big deal. So, you know, we really tried hard to help our employees.
Well, let me stop you, because I really like to be able to compliment the good things that we're seeing. And when we talked about being a good community member, I'm just going to tell you what most employees want. And you've mentioned like the importance of it now, because it's really hard to keep employees. But who wouldn't want an employer that cares about them personally, that cares about their family, them being able to have a good quality of life, wanting to stay here, Now, the benefit for you is that you already said you spent all this time training these employees. You don't want them to leave and start over.
No, we want to retain people because it is very difficult.
But I'm just sitting here talking. If I'm looking for a job, and I'm not going to leave the pastor anytime soon, but if I was wanting to go work for somebody, I'd want to work for somebody that was honest and that wanted to make sure that as I was able to try to invest in and help their company, that they were going to help me and it be a long-term thing. And I keep hearing this about your company over and over.
Yeah, so it's important to us, and I think the way you do that is you engage with your employees often. You tell them the truth. You seek input. You listen to them. So we're trying to do all those things. We're trying to engage them. We're trying to show them that, we listen, we care. The things that are important to you are important to us because, look, at the end of the day, we can't be successful as a company, as a community, without these individuals that make up our community, that make up our company. So, if we don't focus on their needs and what they need to put food on the table, to raise a family, to have confidence in their career, then we're not looking after ourselves as a company or as a community.
Well, and to brag a little more, so you won't have to, and since you did, look, I've got notes here that you guys organize free meals for employees and their families 3 times a day at all facilities. You put in place interest-free, deferred payback loan programs for employees. Yeah. You instituted flexible work hours so they could get their house back up where it needed to be. Set up state and federal assistant kiosks. You send employees to tarp the homes of other employees. That's Bay County at its finest. We saw it happen in neighborhoods, but again, it's a big deal. It matters a lot.
We knew we had to take care of the employees because, if we took care of them, first of all, it's just the right thing to do, but they were going to take care of us.
Well, you only lost 100 employees after the hurricane.
And it could have been a lot worse.
Absolutely, it could have been. So, from the outside of Eastern Shipbuilding Group, all I knew is that we, as a community, I was glad the beaches didn't get hit hard because now at least all of us that were homeless had a place to go stay.
Right, yeah, I don't know.
Right, so we had the economic engine there, but I also knew when I would talk to other business leaders, what's going to happen with a military base and what about this, at the time, $5 billion Coast Guard cutter contract that was going to be a huge part of our growth.
Yeah.
Now, I was wondering it, but you were wondering it too.
Yeah, so... our first thoughts went to our employees. Once we started putting in place measures, anything and everything that we could do to help them, we started really focusing on, okay, how can we keep this contract? Because we had just 10 days prior to the storm, we were awarded the contract. Man. And we knew, so that was October 10th, we knew that we were supposed to cut steel in January. And we said, we will cut steel in January. We will start on time.
You will not take
that was step one.
Okay.
So, and, the Coast Guard was watching, and I'm sure they were rooting for us, but, we'll see it when it happens. So we took care of our employees. We got the yard patched up, and we cut steel on time, and we didn't stop. So, I think that was a big statement, not just for the company, but for the community.
That makes me kind of feel inside like, those are my people.
Yeah, it's all of us. And,
it is.
And we all cut steel on time.
That's
as
right.
a community. Whether it was at your job, at your home, at your church.
Yep.
Showing up when you were just beat up, when your house was covered in trees, it was, we're going to cut steel. We're going to make it happen. Every day we're going to get up and it's going to be a new day and we're going to get better.
You had a big job as a cheerleader, didn't you?
It was tough, but it was an opportunity that I was glad to have, because it helped me grow as a person. It helped me step into that leadership role that I had already been in, but really up until then, I kind of felt like I was running alongside of it in some ways. Yeah. And, that happened and, there was nobody else. Hey, we got all these people, we got all these mouths to feed and we got contracts and what are we going to do? Well, everything. Let's figure it out.
So in the process, you guys really rebuilt the whole facility, didn't you?
We did. We had about $60 million in damage between our 2 facilities at the time. So it was significant. Our insurance company stepped up to the plate. They treated us fairly. Mm-hmm. I had 12 insurance agents on the ground 3 days after the storm.
And you told them you had to cut steel in January, right?
No, I said, our folks are cleaning up this yard, and you're going to pay us to do it because I got to keep them busy. I got to keep a paycheck in their wallet." And they said, "Absolutely, whatever you need." So they were fair. We had a vessel, a $90 million state-of-the-art freezer trawler that's currently in the Bering Sea in Alaska fishing. We were 5 weeks from delivering it. It broke free in the storm. It drifted across the bay and it capsized and flooded.
Oh, no.
So we had a yard in ruins. We had a capsized vessel. And so it was a significant problem set. So we knew we had to get to work right away and fix it. And I'm glad to say that here we are. Not only have we bounced back, but we've thrived as a community, as a company.
Yep.
That particular vessel, we salvaged it. We brought it to the dock. We ripped everything out of it, and we rebuilt it. And it's currently in the Bering Sea in Alaska
I'm gonna have
fishing.
to look for pictures. I don't think I'm gonna get to go to the Bering Sea to see it. But Bay County and the Bering Sea is kind of neat too.
No, the products of Bay County that we've built with Bay County, they can be found all over the world. They're in the Bering Sea. They're down in South America. They're in Canada. They're in Brazil.
So you guys were working really hard to keep the contract. From what you shared with me, originally the contract was, you were hopeful to do how many cutters? Like 20 something?
Up to 11.
Up
the
to
program
11.
of record, they want 25 medium endurance cutters. That's what these offshore patrol cutters are.
Okay.
They're meant to replace 33 medium endurance cutters that are old.
Okay.
That they need to get rid of. So these are critical assets. This is the Coast Guard's #1 acquisition priority. Out of all of their acquisitions, this is it. This is their #1. So it was initially 11. After the storm, we worked really hard because we were fearful that they were going to pull that contract from us, and that was a real thing.
That would have been a huge kick to the whole community.
A huge blow to this community in a time when we didn't need any more issues. We had been hit by the 3rd largest storm to ever hit the United States. So we fought really hard. And by cutting steel on time, by making promises and keeping them, and we're not the only one. We couldn't have done it without our community partners at the city level, at the county level, getting power back to our facilities, clearing the roads, clearing the debris, all of that infrastructure. We can't do what we need to do without that being there. So everybody stepped up to the plate. But there was a point at which we weren't sure that they were going to keep the job here. So we fought really hard. We were able to convince them to keep the work here. At the time, they said, "Okay, we'll keep the work here, but instead of 11 vessels, we're going to reduce it to 4, and we're going to go ahead and start a recompete process, and we're going to make you compete for this work, Eastern. You're going to have to win it again." And instead of winning
David's
it
got
again,
to beat Goliath not once, but twice.
we got to beat Goliath again. So as you can imagine, the folks that we were able to beat the first go around, they were back in the game.
Yep.
And so we worked really hard, although the recompete was at Vessel 5 rather than Vessel 12. We worked really hard, and we knew that what we had to do was make promises and keep them and execute. And if we could execute on the contract, we would put ourselves in a good position to win the recompete. And we've done that. We've put ourselves in a really good position, and here in a couple weeks we should hear something on the next 11 cutters. So it's a very pivotal time for the community once again.
Well, we are hopeful. We are excited. I know you guys. There's no doubt in my mind. Y'all put the work in. You're confident. It's going to be in or around the time that this actual podcast releases that you're going to be getting prayerfully. You're going to get some really good news.
Yeah.
I want to talk for a minute because, if we win the recompete, what does that mean?
If we win the recompete, we essentially we have we get the ability to build out cutters 5 through 15. They want 25 of them, so we feel confident that as long as we can continue executing, that when it comes time to contract for vessels 16 through 25, they will most likely just sit down and negotiate a price with us. So this recompete really means the next 20 years of work for our company, and for around 1,500 to 2,000 direct Eastern employees, and another 2,000 indirect Bay County employees. So you're talking about thousands of jobs for 20 years And I've got some figures
Well,
here.
give me the figures.
If we're able to build out those 25 cutters, you're talking about around $3 billion just in wages. So this is wages for our employees over that 20-year period. It's about $3 billion.
So just to kind of focus on that for a second, when we talk about dollars brought not just even to the community, but to the direct employees of Eastern Shipbuilding.
That's right.
What's that figure?
$3 billion, just in direct wages over 20 years. And so you look at the economic ripple effect of that through the community. So you have that number of jobs, that amount of wages coming in. Those folks are buying houses. They're renting houses. That adds to the tax base that we rely on to fix roads, to build new roads, to put in infrastructure like water, sewer, power. It also leverages other dollars. So when we as a community at the city and county level, we're going to the state and we're applying for dollars to improve infrastructure, roads, sewer, power, you name it. We're going to have a much better audience if we can keep contracts like this in this area, because there's a demand signal, right? And demand drives the need. And when our legislators in Tallahassee see that as a community we're growing through being able to get and keep contracts like this, we're going to be able to attract those dollars.
So what can we do? Because as I've shared already, I think much of Bay County's proud of Eastern Shipbuilding Group.
Thank you.
We just are. What can we do because of the significance of your being here and continuing to do what you do? You've told me it's a community-wide effort.
It really is, and I have come to appreciate that. These government contracts, large government contracts, they're different. They require community-wide and statewide, region-wide support because, the Coast Guard, they are investing in the next 50 to 100 years of their medium endurance cutter fleet. They're investing it right here in Bay County. So they really look to see, does this contract have community support? When I say community support, is the community building a community of the future that can support the next 20 years of cutter construction?
Right.
So they look to our school systems. They look to our city and county leaders. Are these folks, looking after the industry in the area, not just Eastern Shipbuilding, but all industry, all different sectors of our economy? Are they forward thinking? Are they building out an infrastructure that'll support this particular project? Is the state focusing on Bay County? Are they supporting Bay County in a way that'll support the Coast Guard Cutter project? So these things, you can see how it's a domino effect. And very quickly, these issues, and they roll up to the DC level. And at the federal level, because, we have good community support, which leads to good state support, which leads to good support in DC, all of a sudden, little old Bay County, we have friends in Washington.
Well, and that matters.
It matters. It matters.
I would assume, and we haven't talked about this before, but I would make the connection that if we're building the air base of the future and they chose to rebuild that base, that had to be big for all the other pieces that go with this, and maybe even them staying here. The fact that all of the community leaders, and you've spoken very kindly of them, you have felt the support of local community leaders.
We have, and you make a great point, and it's really. It's an all-encompassing community effort.
Yep.
It really takes a village, and when Tyndall Air Force Base decided, or the federal government decided to rebuild Tyndall, that was a big part of what they were looking at. Is, hey, is this area going to be able to support this kind of investment? Are we putting the money in the right place? So the same community leaders that helped sell that to the federal government are also helped sell the Coast Guard on this particular project. So we're very grateful. And that's what I say when I say support. You think you're just a small fish in a big pond, but everybody plays a part, in supporting not just this particular contract, but our community.
I know that you guys, because of the size of the operation you run, you you draw employees from all over.
We
So
do.
it's going to be a regional draw.
It is.
As you've described it, you literally are trying to tap into pipelines in technical schools, like the
Absolutely.
program you've got at Haney for welders.
We do.
Or you've got involvement there. I know that you are a graduate of Rutherford High School.
I am.
And Rutherford, just in the past year or so, started a program as well that is a welding program.
We did. So we've really focused on developing talent pipelines where they haven't existed in the past or don't exist, and then fostering relationships with existing talent pipelines and helping those pipelines grow.
Right.
Haney's a big one for us. We've had a very good relationship with them for years. I'm actually on their board that helps raise funds for scholarships for deserving individuals. We helped raise funds at the state level to help Haney open a pipe fitting program. So now that's active, and
Cool.
We're drawing from that. We've partnered with Haney on an apprenticeship program for a new technology that we have called an orbital pipe welder. It's an automated pipe welding machine. So we're very involved with Bay District schools through Haney and Rutherford.
That's good.
We work with Gulf Coast State College, Florida State, here locally on internship programs for professional programs for folks in our program office, engineers.
Right.
Chipola College I've got here, Port St. Joe High School, Weewa High School. I mean, I'm not going to name them all because
you're
there's a
drawing
bunch
them from
of
all
them.
over. It's great.
But the point is that, here we are in Bay County. We rely on drawing from surrounding counties to help us do what we do, and it's critical to develop and maintain those pipelines.
One of the things that I have tried to point out periodically, and we're getting probably to the end of the time that we have, and there's so much more I really do want to talk to you about.
I know, we just started.
I know, isn't it crazy? But I think it's fascinating, but also very important for people that may not be aware. Yes, to the west, we are growing and growing rapidly to the western side of our county. But one of the really big wins and also potential really boons in the future is what we're going to see on the east side.
Yeah.
That got hit the hardest.
It did.
It's been slower to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at, and if my number's wrong, tell me, but like $10 billion relative to these contracts that are at play with just Eastern Shipbuilding Group.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, the $5 billion at the air base, there is the expectation that we're really going to have momentum building on that side of town as well.
We will. And the other thing that it's going to do is, our economy has traditionally been tourism based, and that's great. And we rely on that heavily, and we're going to continue to rely on that as a community. But as a community, we have to diversify because you never know what is around the next corner. And as we saw with COVID, at first that really hurt our tourism base. Things like the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, if you remember that hurt us.
It was bad.
And so when you have a diversified economy that doesn't just have tourism, but it has industry,
right,
you can weather those storms. So it's important for us as a community, as an economy, to diversify. And industry is a big part of that because we need another leg to the stool.
So I am, hopeful that if there's people that are listening that have children, grandchildren, or maybe somebody that's just listening that says, hey, I want to go work for some guys like that, that they will find the link that we're going to include so they can apply or call or get in contact. So that'll be there. Any of these programs that we've mentioned that are the pipelines for that talent would be great. I also hope that in the coming days, hopefully short days, when we get some really good news, that all of Bay County will cheer as we see the best values of Bay County, the resilience, I'm not going to take no for an answer, the little guy beating the Goliath. I love seeing the idea of taking those values to D.C. and winning. It's exciting. So hopefully we'll hear a big cheer when the press release goes out. The other thing that I would say, I just have to ask, are you excited about the future of Bay County?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the future is bright for our county for a lot of different reasons. When there was certainly a low point after the storm.
Yep.
I think a lot of us, couldn't see tomorrow, right?
Yep.
We couldn't see past the pile of trees that was either on our house or in our streets or in our driveway. We've come a long way together. There's been, although that storm was bad, the silver lining is there is a lot of opportunity that has come out of it.
Yeah.
We are quickly seeing as every day goes by, we are building a much better Bay County, a stronger Bay County, a hardened Bay County, One that an area that a lot of different people that don't live here right now will want to move here to be a part of. Businesses that aren't here that are looking to invest. We are positioning ourselves to be very attractive to those businesses. So, yeah, I'm very excited about tomorrow for Bay County and surrounding counties. Yeah. I'm excited about the opportunities for our business, and I just I'm especially excited to be hopefully be in a position to continue to make a positive impact, on our communities, on our employees. Yeah. Because look, you go to work, right? You do the best you can, but unless you're trying to make a positive impact on everybody that you come in contact with, you're really not quite doing it right. Yep. So that's what we try to do. We try to do our job, keep our promises, but make a positive impact on each person or company that we come in contact with. And man, that's what you got to do.
Joey, thank you for your time today. Thank you for telling the story, the good news story of Eastern.
Well, thank you for having me here.
And listen, the best is yet to come in Bay County, no doubt about it, as it gets brighter by the day. And you guys are making it brighter. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Good News Bay podcast, where we are making Bay County brighter one conversation at a time. Please help us share this good news and change the conversation by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast.